Hello, 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 everybody. Hello, everybody. Come on in. You know what today is. It's Talk Tuesday. Come on in. It's Talk Tuesday. Talk Tuesday. Listen, uh, we got a powwow show tonight, right? So come on in, guys. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be in this world. Come on in. Come on in. Say hello. Let us know that you're here. You know what? Talk Tuesday. Talk Tuesday is conversation of inspiration, motivation, and empowerment. So listen, we have all of those things tonight on Talk Tuesday. So Talk Tuesday tonight it's a 30-minute powwow. What does that mean? We're only going to be on for 30 minutes tonight. But I don't know, with our guest, powerful woman, we might be on here a little bit longer, right? So we'll see. But come on in. It's Talk Tuesday. Again, Talk Tuesday's conversations of inspiration, motivation, and empowerment. And so again, thank you so much for your support. Let me know you're here. Say hello. Say hello. Let me know that you are in here tonight. We got our regulars, Ivory, Miss Geraldine, Sheila, members from the COM is here tonight. So thank you so much for joining. But again, tonight's show is really, really special. I don't have a topic for you, but the guest does. But tonight it's a 30-minute powwow. I'll call it a powwow because our guest is going to bring some powerful information, some inspiration, motivation. I'm not going to be on tonight. It's all about our guest tonight and a message, the powerful and inspirational message that she's going to bring tonight. I did have a picture up a minute ago. I call her Bestie. I call her Bestie because she is my best friend. She is one of my best friends. She is Reverend, executive pastor of the Community Outreach Ministry. She was just on Talk Tuesday, and it was so powerful. I asked her if she can come on tonight. It was kind of last minute, y'all, but she said yes. And so tonight she's going to come on. She's going to be on. She's going to bring a message. And I actually just kind of sit back, relax, listen. If you have questions for her, if you have comments, y'all are always so good about that. Put them in the comment section. She will see them. I will see them. But I'm going to be kind of like in the background. I'm going to be working the information. And so, again, it's going to be a wonderful Talk Tuesday tonight. So, listen, without further ado, I'm going to stop running my mouth and I'm going to bring my guest on, right? I told y'all, hey, that's my bestie. Hi, Lorna. Sorry,
Good
Shawana.
evening, good evening, good evening, good
Yeah.
evening.
Tonight, y'all, again, this is our special guest, Reverend Schwanna Marshall from the Community Outreach Ministry. Again, she's going to be on tonight. I was like, it's all on you tonight. And so, again, if you have any comments or questions, please ask, put them in the comment section. And Reverend Shawana, I'm just going to say goodbye. I'm going in the background. I'm going to work all the information. And so I ask God to just bless us tonight with your message,
Got it.
whatever you're coming forth with. And so I want to personally, again, thank you so much for coming on Talk Tuesday again. All right, I'm going off. Take over, Miss Shawana.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. To God be the glory for the great things that He is doing, done, and shall continue to do. Listen, Geraldine Taylor is one of my absolutely best friends, and I absolutely love and adore her. Because if I did not, I would not be consenting to be on here tonight. I love her. I love her. And I love what she's doing with her Talk Tuesday. And so I salute you tonight, Geraldine Taylor, for all the great things that you are doing with this ministry called Talk Tuesday. As Geraldine said, I'm just here for a few minutes, but I want to say a lot in a short period of time. And so I just came tonight just to give a word of inspiration, a word of empowerment, a word that will not only make us think, but will make us act. And so oftentimes we hear a word and we just hear it, but sometimes, all the time there should be action with whatever word that we hear. We should be able to create an action, motion, and movement from what we hear and what we are encouraged by. And so tonight, I want to talk about this subject called identity crisis. Yes, identity crisis. I think that when it comes to our purpose and where we are in this thing called life, most, if not all of us, are in an identity crisis. Yes, yes, yes. I said it. I said it. I said it. We are in what's called an identity crisis when it comes to our purpose. Because if we want to be quite honest, all of us are not operating in the totality or the fullness of our God-ordained, God-assigned purpose. And so I want to start off by identifying what the word means. Identity can be defined as our own individuality, our uniqueness, our distinctiveness, or our individual character. Let me say that again. Our identity can be defined by our own individuality, our own uniqueness, our own distinctiveness, and our own individual character. That's identity. But I said we're in an identity crisis. And a crisis means that there is the presence of a dilemma, a predicament, or a defining moment. So we got our definitions down as I walk you through this empowerment. We've identified what identity is, and we've claimed what the crisis is, right? However, when the two collide, they can initiate a dilemma in your individuality that creates a predicament or a defining moment for your purpose in life. Can I say that again? When the two collide, they can initiate a dilemma in your individuality that creates a predicament or a defining moment for your purpose in life. Therefore, we have what's called an identity crisis. See, who we identify as or how we identify ourselves can be governed by, check this out, either your beliefs, your worth, your perspective, or your choices. Most people's identity is enveloped in things like issues. It's enveloped in things like problems. It's enveloped in defiance, hindrances, and comparison, which leads to the misaligning of your purpose in life. See, when these things come together and you envelope your life in them, your actual purpose end up being misaligned. Yeah. Can I tell you one of the most unfortunate parts of an identity crisis is that we often live in a state of contrast and comparison. Contrast and comparison. Contrast is to evaluate the differences, and comparison is to parallel them or equate them to something else. Check this out. Contrast is to evaluate the differences. Comparison is to parallel them up against or equate them to something else. And see, we often compare and contrast by assessing our own value up against something else to define and determine the identity of its worth. See, we do a lot of assessing ourselves. And what we do with contrasting and comparison is we assess it against other outside entities that we think has more value than we do. And see, an identity crisis often presents itself in such a way that it makes it difficult. Check this out. It makes it difficult, Geraldine. It makes it difficult to recognize and even walk authentically in your own purpose. See, crisis makes it difficult and hard to be authentically you when you only look at it from a certain way. And guess what? Some of us are doing it subconsciously and we are not even cognizant of it. Yeah, we're not even cognizant of it. Comparison is a dangerous game, Earlene. It's a dangerous game because most of the time we only grasp or get a minimal glimpse of something else that gives us an extremely limited perspective on what we are contrasting and comparing. See, oftentimes we contrast and compare things to stuff that we don't even have all the information on. Sarah Jake says in her book, Don't Settle for Safe, we often look at other people's lives from a certain view, and we don't really get to see the full scope. And what we do is we contrast and compare ourselves to only the good of what we see. But guess what? We never contrast and compare ourselves to other people's troubles. We don't contrast and compare ourselves to other people's issues. We don't contrast and compare ourselves to other people's troubles because we only want to compare ourselves and contrast ourselves of what we desire in other people is the good of what we think they have. Yeah. Some of us doubt our position and our place because it doesn't look like someone else's position or someone else's place. Minister Gilliam, can I double down on that? Some of us have a confidence, such confidence and assurance in what we see in someone else, but we are hesitant and very apprehensive about who we are and who we are supposed to be. We can root and look at other people's stuff, but when it comes to our own purpose, we devalue ourselves in a major way. Yeah. See, if you are not careful with how you view life through the lens of contrast and comparison, you will begin to question who you are and what values you possess. My God. Can I say that again? If you are not careful, if you are not cognizant of how you view life through the lens of contrast and comparison, you will begin to question who you are and what value you possess. Come on, I know I'm talking good to somebody on tonight. Somebody needs to do some inner work. Somebody needs to do some inner work of self-reflection and self-analysis because you've allowed the external persuasions to affect you in a non-progressive way. It's a non-progressive way. It's not productive at all. Because see, listen to this. The responsibility lies with you to establish your value and your own identity. It is no one else's responsibility to walk in your shoes. That is totally your responsibility. The responsibility lies within you, me, myself, and I, to establish the value in my own identity. See, the pieces of our identity that connects to our self-worth, how we feel about ourselves, how we see ourselves, and purpose will always be up for grabs when we are not accepting of and walking in our authentic selves. See, it's up for grabs when we're just walking nilly-willy, when we're not cognizant of our authenticity and our authentic value, because everything and everyone can come by, and whatever is thrown our way, it's up for grabs. Our self-worth is up for grabs. Our self-esteem is up for grabs. Our walk is up for grabs. How we talk is up for grabs. How we move is up for grabs. And guess what? Many of us are tussling with the reality of our own authenticity and the desire to fit in where we don't belong. My God. Indeed, we are struggling and at war with ourselves and outside influences, which have left us impaired in our ability to function effectively in our own authentic identity. Yeah, if that's you, go ahead and put in the chat, been there and done that. Been there and done that. That you struggled, you've been at war with yourself, you have had inside and outside influence that has left you dysfunctional and non-effective in your authentic identity. Just go ahead and put in the chat, been there and done that. Yeah, been there and done that. You can't really be, if we want to be quite honest, we really can't be authentically fruitful walking in someone else's lane. See, Talk Tuesday is Geraldine's lane, although Geraldine has Reverend Marshall on Talk Tuesday. Schwanna's lane is not to go out and create a show called Talk Tuesday. Even though Geraldine has Schwanna speaking on her Talk Tuesday. There may be another lane of speaking for Schwanna, but Talk Tuesday is Geraldine's lane. And Geraldine is fruitful in that lane. If Schwanna comes on at Tuesday at 7:30, she's not walking authentically in her lane, because this is not Reverend Schwanna Marshall's lane. This is Geraldine's lane. Therefore, she's able to be fruitful in the lane that God has purposed her to be in. We are encouraged by and inspired by others, but God has not ordained your life to be a carbon copy of anyone else's purpose. Yeah, the only deity we are supposed to emulate and resemble really is Jesus Christ, our Lord. And see, some of us have misplaced purpose, and we are operating in an unfruitful and unproductive state. Because let me tell you this, if you are out of place, you are out of purpose. Somebody ought to put that in the chat. If you are out of place, you are out of purpose. Out of place is out of purpose. Out of place is out of purpose. Point blank, period. If you are out of place, you are out of purpose. And see, I love how even the Bible gives us good analysis on different ways and different perspectives. And I love how the Bible gives us this really good analysis on this thing called identity. And I found this analysis in 1 Corinthians 12. And I just want to read it to y'all. It's in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. And I just want to read it into y'all hearing, because it is a very good analysis on operating in your identity. It starts around verse 14, and it says, even so the body is not made up of one part, but of many. Check this out. Now, if the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. And if the ear should say, because I am not the eye, I don't belong to the body, it would not for that reason stop being part of the body. If the whole body, come on, y'all, were an eye, where would the sense of hearing be? If the whole body were an ear, where would the sense of smell be? But in fact, God has placed in the parts in the body, every one of them, just as he wanted them to be. They were all one part. Where would the body be? If they were all one part, where would the body be? As it is, there are many parts to one body. I love how this text and this scripture talks about identifying your purpose in the body. We are a part of the body. We all live on this earth. We're all a part of this world, and especially those of us who are part of the body of Christ. And so everybody has a part and purpose in this thing called life. And this text is basically telling us that everybody has a part. And because you're not the one specific part, it does not make you any less part of the purpose of the body. I love how the scripture talks about the attributes of a human body to paint us a powerful picture on how to illustrate how we can identify our specific role and purpose. See, the text talks about the diversity. There's a diversity of parts, and each part is identified for a purpose. Yeah, there are different ways in which they all work, because there's a specific purpose for each one and how it operates. My God, the hand doesn't operate like the foot, and the foot doesn't operate like the nose, and the mouth doesn't operate like the feet. The identity crisis comes into play for most of us when we are functioning dysfunctionally as a part of the body. My God. We are dysfunctioning. We are functioning dysfunctionally. And unfortunately, the purpose can't go forth because you are out of place. My God, who am I talking to tonight? You are out of place. You are not the foot. You are the arm. So you were designed to function how the arm is supposed to function. You are not a square. You are a circle. So you were designed to operate like a circle with your round self. Your puzzle piece was not designed for the edge of the puzzle. Your piece belongs right snap in the middle. But you keep trying to make it fit, but it won't fit. My God, you are attempting to conform where you don't belong. Yeah, you are attempting and trying to conform where you don't belong. You keep telling yourself that it's fine, but it's not. Come on, Ari. You keep trying to convince yourself that you're fulfilled and satisfied, but you are not. Early, you're trying to persuade yourself to reason with it, but it won't settle right because it's an identity crisis. Yeah. Can we just talk for a minute about the level of discontent we have with ourselves? My God. Woo! The amount of dissatisfaction we have with ourselves and the influence of outside entities that has a major impact on our inner abilities. Yes. Come on. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it? Can we talk about how we pull out a measuring stick to size our worth against other people, places, and things? You keep pivoting and deviating from your God-assigned purpose because you're afraid and hesitant, which has left you in an uncomfortable place you've tried to make comfortable. My God. Yeah.
Reverend Marshall, Jesus have mercy. I had tried to stay off, y'all, but I tried to stay off, and I'm trying. Y'all know I got to take notes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have a question for you when you talk about
Mm-hmm.
contrast and comparison, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask you the question: Why do we want what others have, right? But
Mm-hmm.
God made us each, like you talk about the parts, right? For
Mm-hmm.
purpose. God has given all of us a purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that means if you want to try to be like somebody else, and nothing wrong with, seeing inspiration in others. But that means, okay, you want to be like this person, you're going to have to take on. Can you handle
That
that?
part. That
Right?
part.
Can you
That part.
handle all
Mm-hmm.
that they're going through
Mm-hmm.
and or have went through? But we want to be so much, we can't, we don't even know our own identity.
Right.
Right.
Right. And see what happens is, I said it earlier, I said oftentimes we only get a grasp or limited perspective on other people's situations.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we, especially when we're not in a good place, because that's
Mm-hmm.
the best place to be in the comparison and contrasting, is when I'm not where I would like to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so what happens is I look at what somebody else has or where somebody else is. Have you ever heard somebody say, "Dang, I've been going to church. I've been doing this. So and so on do half this stuff. They riding around in this. They're doing this and they're doing that." Because you are valuing your life against what somebody else
Somebody
has.
else has,
You
right.
don't know that person been robbing Peter to pay Paul. You don't know that person living paycheck to paycheck, and all you see is what they show you, because most of us don't show all of our indeficiencies. Most of us don't show all of our issues. Most of us are not sitting there displaying all of our problems. Social media is a perfect example how we live facades. We live factual. We don't live factual lives on social media, because to be quite honest, if we were, then all of us would be having a whole bunch of sob stories, and not everybody only showing themselves in the good moments.
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes when we're not in a place that we would like to be, that's what creates contrast and comparison. And when we're not content with who we are, that's why it's a self-worth issue. That's why it's a self-esteem issue. Because when you become okay with who you are and who you are in God, see, the only entity and deity that can give you that is God. We often look for it in people, places, and things. But when the truth of the matter, when it boils down to it, God ordains purpose in our life. God ordains purpose in all of our lives. We were created in his image. We were purposed by God. And so if we're not walking in that authenticity of that, then we are devaluing who we are and who he has made us to be.
Everybody, as I said in the beginning, this is Reverend Schwanna from Community Outreach Ministry. And listen, I did not give her a topic to talk about, but what a topic tonight. Identity crisis. Oh my gosh. And it's supposed to be like 30 minutes, y'all. But as my friend Leander told me, girl, what are you talking about 30 minutes? There ain't gonna be no daggone 30 minutes. But this is real, real good. I need to just still continue, but Shawana, you just said like God ordained purpose in us, right? And I think oftentimes it takes a while for me personally, it took a long time for me to like, what is my purpose in life? What am I supposed to do?
Right.
God, what direction you want me to go? Why is it so hard for us to, I don't want to say find that purpose, because again, God give us all a purpose, but it's so hard for some of us, and maybe some of us that's on here too. I didn't find mine until later in life, and maybe because I had to go through some trials and tribulations to actually kind of find like what my purpose is and was. It's so hard for people, but that also kind of ties into identity crisis too.
It does, because I think if you are not okay with you, then how do you really operate in the purpose? Like if I can only identify myself through the lens of what other people have or what other people do or how other people move, then I can spend years in that place. I can spend decades in that place and never fully I remember growing up in our home church, Pastor James said the cemetery is full of full people that they did not die empty. We did not die. And what he means by didn't die empty is that you did not die in a situation or circumstance where you poured out everything that you were supposed to do in this thing called life. And there's a lot of people in the grave that are full, but now they're dead because they lived so long that they never got to fulfill their purpose in life. And purpose is not always contingent on one particular place and space, because I believe that because you do Talk Tuesday, you're walking in Talk Tuesday as a part of your purpose. Your overall purpose may be inspiration. Talk Tuesday may be a piece of your inspiration. Going out and speaking and doing your engagements is a part of your inspiration. But it was all that you had went through, a part of your cancer, your journey with your ostomy bags. All of that was wrapped up in your purpose. But if you only identify Geraldine as an ostomy cancer survivor, then she's not all fully her purpose. Her purpose is, that's what I overcame. I'm going to tell you how I overcame it. Geraldine is not cancer. Geraldine overcame cancer. So Geraldine's purpose is not to sit and wallow in cancer. Geraldine's purpose is to tell somebody else that because I've been there, I can overcome it too. So I don't identify with cancer and sickness. I identify with overcoming and victory.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Oh, oh my gosh. Ooh, Jesus.
And see, we end up negotiating our value based on a misconception of others, but don't make the proper assessment about who you are. You have to have a proper assessment about who you are.
But some people don't. Some people don't want to know who they are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Some people don't, or some people just don't care. Some people just don't care. They like, they like, it is what it is. I'm just out here living in the world. I live, I die, and whatever.
Right.
And that's a very dysfunctional way to live, because everybody has purpose.
You just talked about that. We're functioning, but in dysfunctional.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Improper assessment is dysfunctional and unhealthy. Proper assessment is about discovering and learning.
Okay.
Improper assessment minimizes value and worth. Proper assessment is about cultivating and nurturing. Improper assessment creates inward conflict, where proper assessment creates outward action.
Wow.
Yeah. See how we can contrast and compare?
Right. Because I couldn't get it.
Improper in a proper way to assess it.
I couldn't get it first when you started talking about contrast and comparison. I was like, wait a minute, I'm like, okay, let me learn something. Let me figure out what is this contrast and comparison. Yeah.
Because we look at either the difference or we try to parallel to equate them to. And so what am I equating it to? What am I looking at as the differences? Because we can look at certain situations and we can look at it as differences. Yeah. And we can look at it as a difference, but we still try to equate ourselves to it.
Okay.
Like, oh, I'm not so-and-so because so-and-so is so-and-so. Well, what are you doing? I'm not Geraldine, but what am I doing? Earlene is not Geraldine. Candace is not Reverend Marshall. Minister Gilliam is not Candace. But at the end of the day, we may have differences, but what is it that makes you different? Okay. Because we all are different for a purpose.
Yes.
Like the text says, the text talks about, I love how the scripture talks about the different body parts and how they function. And it doesn't make you any less because you're the hand. I'm going to be the best foot I can be because my foot has a purpose. And if Geraldine is the arm, then Geraldine got to flex that arm and be the best arm it can be. Geraldine can't get caught up in what the foot doing because I'm stomping with the big dogs. Your arm is waving and doing some things and giving direction and flagging some things and making some things noticeable so people can see some stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm upset because you're the hand and you're flagging. I got to stomp with the best of them and be the best foot that I can be.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. Minister Gilliam said to find who you are and your purpose, you must connect with God. He has the answer to who you are, what you're supposed to do, life's purpose. Absolutely, Minister Gilliam. Absolutely. Connect with God because God will show you your purpose. Now, check this out. Everybody don't always walk in God's purpose when they know it. Because some of us knew our purpose. Can I be honest?
Mm-hmm.
I had an identity crisis about my purpose
Wow.
because I didn't want to go into ministry. But God kept speaking and God kept speaking it and God kept speaking it. But I was being defiant.
Mm-hmm.
I was being disobedient because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I had too much going on in my life. My problems I was identifying with,
Mm-hmm.
my issues I was more identifying with. I
Did you feel
never
like
identified the
did you
purpose.
feel like you wasn't worthy of it?
I felt like I wasn't worthy of it. How you gonna call me to do this? You
Right,
know, I
right,
want to. I'm the most laid back person. I want to be in the background.
right,
I want to
right.
be in the front. And so when people see me in the front, when I tell y'all this is nothing but God, because
Mm-hmm.
my natural personality is just to sit in the background. I will work
Right.
like a dog in the background, do whatever you ask me to do, because that's my comfort. And so I had to learn how to accept my identity and my purpose. And
Right.
God troubled me. God kept troubling me. He kept speaking it. He kept allowing people, sending people in my life to speak it and speak it. And those who don't know, I'm a dreamer. And so
Mm-hmm.
God shows me visions and dreams. And so when he showed me that in a dream, it shook my world. And I was like, all right, I surrender. I surrender. Because I had to do a proper assessment of my
Okay.
identity.
Okay.
And I could not do the assessment. Improper assessment was minimizing my value and my worth. But the proper assessment was learning how to discover and learn. That's how I had to learn. I had to make an intentional assessment and release the pressure. Check this out. The pressure that I was even putting on myself and outside influence.
Well, you know, sometimes how you say, okay, you oftentimes got to do a self-evaluation, right? And I always say there's nothing wrong with that, but oftentimes when we do that, we see stuff that's ugly. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Figuratively, you
yeah,
know, we
yeah.
see some stuff, right? But it
Mm-hmm.
also ties into what Leandra was saying, like God knows your purpose. So he
Mm-hmm.
already knew you were gonna mess up.
We
He
already
already he
knew.
already knew those things. It's just like we so afraid because we
Mm-hmm.
did mess up. You
Yeah.
look at yourself and you're like, me?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
mean me? I'm chosen to do this.
There goes contrast and comparison,
Okay.
because I look at the differences of what I'm not, and then I try to parallel that to equating it to something. I'm not like so and so. So and
Right.
so does so and so. I don't have this. I'm not good enough. I don't do
Right.
this. I don't
Right.
speak the best. I'm not educated. I don't have a degree.
Right.
Like all these things that you try to contrast and compare, that's the inside
Oh,
influence. And then we look at outsiders that influence how we see ourselves in our perspective.
yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm understanding this better. By and
Yeah.
by.
Earlier said we need to get out of our own way. We're stopping the process of our life for ourselves. Absolutely. We got to get out of our own way. My big thing is God's will, God's way.
Yeah.
And it really, really takes a whole lot of surrendering to self to really set and reconcile with the fact that God has given me, that I have a God ordained assigned purpose for my
Yeah.
life that's bigger than what I think. That means more to the kingdom than what I think.
Mhm.
That's more beneficial to other people's lives than what I think. And we don't even realize that a lot of our purpose is wrapped in some of the things that we've gone through. Our purpose
Right.
is
Yes.
wrapped in some of the experiences that we've had in our life. A part of that creates our purpose. And so
Yeah.
oftentimes we look at all the things we've gone through. We stay stuck in the identity of the stuff, not realizing that the stuff actually is a part of helping to springboard us
Yeah.
into our purpose.
Yeah, I think see that's what happened to me. I think because I was sick for so long, blah 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 blah, felt sorry for myself, didn't think that I was going to be able to do this. So I was putting limitations on myself, right?
Right.
Putting limitations on myself until I found what my purpose was. But I also had, Shawan, I had to find my why.
Right.
You know, I
Right.
had to find why this is your purpose, but where's your why? What is your why? When I found that, I was like, oh, okay, I understand it now. But yeah, for a long, long time, I went through that identity crisis. Sometimes you feel like you slipping back into it.
That part. Especially when you feel like God is doing something and shifting. And so oftentimes you're like, wait a minute. It's
Right.
like God doing some stuff and it's making me uncomfortable, girl.
Yes.
To be completely honest, it's making me uncomfortable because I'm like, oh my God, you doing this? Like I
Right.
gotta go here. I'm doing this. You calling me for this? You calling me to go here? You calling me for? And so oftentimes it is uncomfortable because
Yeah.
our natural, for some of us, our natural inclination is to go where we're comfortable. And
Yes.
so the background, that's where I'm comfortable at.
Yes.
And so to see me out front and to see me doing certain things out front, it's nothing but by the power of God that I do it. It's none of me, all of him. It's none of me. All of
Right.
him.
Yes.
It's none of me. It's all of him. Because if it was my choice, let
You
me make
would.
that clear. If it was my choice, if
Yes.
I had to pick and choose what his purpose should be for my life,
Right.
this
Right.
would not be it. So God has a sense, like we say, God has a sense
Have
of
a sense
humor
of
because
humor.
God
Yes.
calls us to things that we do that are so far outside of what we think, but a part of
Mhm.
our experiences and the power that comes behind what God allows me to do is because of what he's done in my life. I
Wow.
could not be in a place, even with my husband and I, to be in a place that we are able to minister to so many couples
Yes.
when we
Mhm.
never looked at our stuff as ever being helpful to anybody.
Wow.
And so who would have thought that God would use all of that junk
Yes.
to be purposeful in other people's lives, to be able to speak life and to let people know that God is a God of restoration. And so
Yes.
our purpose, a part of our purpose, is to show people what restoration looks like.
Mm.
Show people what
Mm.
reconciliation looks
Always, I joke about it, and I always say, how we've grown up, people have used us and abused us. I was like, God, you a user.
Yes.
You say it
Yes.
like,
Yes. 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 Yes.
no, but
Yes.
He uses us in
Mhm.
a way where He has to take us out of our comfortability. Right?
Yes.
Did you
Yes.
ever imagine, or you, Pastor on now, will ever imagine like ministering to other couples and
Listen,
people
you
coming to
couldn't have
y'all
told
all the
me that.
time?
You couldn't have told me that. I told you that that was a liar. I would have been like, no, that is not our purpose because
Right.
we were an identity crisis even in our marriage because
Mm-hmm.
all we can identify with was our pain, our issues, our
Yeah.
troubles, our faults, our failures. We couldn't identify with the purpose of all of that. Now
Uh,
we can identify.
right, right, right. Yeah.
We can identify the fact that this is all purpose. This is
Yeah.
all God.
Wow.
Nobody but Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
Mm-hmm.
but Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you accept that, you got to surrender to that. You got to reconcile to the fact that there is purpose and you have to
Yeah.
seek him to find out what that purpose. God, lead me, guide me, show me
Mm-hmm.
what that
Mm-hmm.
purpose is, because the
Mm-hmm.
purpose is not wrapped in one particular thing. Like I said, for you, your overall purpose may be encouragement, because
Okay.
that we all got gifts. The gifts
Yeah.
of encouragement, the gifts of this, the gifts of that, the gifts of speaking, the gift of giving, the gift of mercy, all these different things. But
Yeah.
it's wrapped up in differing ways for you.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
not just Talk Tuesday. It's traveling to the camp with the kids and being an
Yeah.
inspiration over there. It's traveling and speaking about your journey, being an inspiration over here. So it's
Mm-hmm.
all those pieces of it. And I've had an opportunity to share in those moments to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate you. That's not my journey, but I know how to
Mm-hmm.
celebrate your journey
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because I've
Mm-hmm.
seen what God has done in you. I've seen I've seen the identity crisis, and I've
Yeah.
seen how God has turned it into purpose. My
Right, 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 right. And
God.
it's so crazy because I was looking at some old pictures on Facebook, right? One of our pictures that when we went away, right?
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah.
but what I was kind of like reflecting back, right? Because you told me a long time ago, um, you told me along when I was going through some personal issues. You was like, Gerald, you're going to look back. and you want to see how far God has brought you. You
My
know, of
God.
course, at the time, I'm like, no, dude, crying all kinds of stuff, right? And
Right.
I still remember that, and that reminds
Mhm.
me, Aunt Lois, like we have to see past our circumstances,
That's
right?
good.
So
Yeah.
it just kind of brought back those memories, those
Mhm.
words that you spoke, right? And
Mhm.
I thought I would never see, you know what I
Exactly.
mean?
And you
But
never could see yourself here. You
right.
never saw yourself traveling,
Mm-hmm.
around the country,
Mm-hmm.
speaking and being part
Mm-hmm.
of organizations and doing the things that you did. You never saw yourself doing the Talk Tuesday. You never saw all
Mm-hmm.
those things. So one thing I kept reiterating to you is eyes have not seen,
I've not seen.
ears have not
Ears
heard,
have not
neither
heard.
have listened into the hearts of man what great things
Things
the Lord has
God
in
has in
store
store.
for
Yes.
Geraldine Taylor.
Yes.
And so I
Yes.
spoke that to you so much.
Yes.
Every time we would talk, we couldn't
Right.
leave our
Yes.
conversation. And so I spoke that into your spirit
Yeah. Yeah.
because I firmly believe that, although I believe it, it doesn't necessarily mean it always feels good. I believe
Mm-hmm.
there's purpose in everything, although it don't always feel good. And oftentimes we can't get to the other side of purpose because we stay stuck in an identity of the issues, of the
Yeah.
circumstances, the
Yeah.
situation, where
Yeah.
I feel, where I'm at, what's going on. And so
Yeah.
we never get to the other side of it being for purpose. Because he said all things work together
Yeah.
for our good. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
everything is going to come together for the purpose that it's supposed to come together for,
Yeah.
so that you can be used for what you are supposed to be used
Supposed to be
for, so that
useful.
other
Wow.
people can be blessed by your stuff. Because believe it or not, other people are going to be blessed by your mess, if you want to
Yeah.
be quite honest. Because some of our stuff was messy.
Yeah.
Some of our stuff was mixed up. Some
Mm-hmm.
of our
Mm-hmm.
stuff was all over the place, mixed up, messed up, mismatch, and all kinds of things.
Yes.
We had all kinds of things going on, but God brought it all together
Yes. Yes.
for us to be able to sit in purpose and surrender to the purpose of it, to be
But
able to walk through parts of it, to be healed, to be victorious on
yeah.
the other side of it, and now we walk in purpose
Well,
of it.
you talked about it earlier, but because it ties into what you just said though. But how do we get from that misplaced purpose? How do we get? You know what I mean? Because you talked
Misplaced,
about that misplaced
misplaced
purpose,
purpose. Yeah, because
right?
see, what happens is misplaced purpose is doing that which you know is not purpose. You misplaced
Uh,
it. So for me, because I knew I was called, when I really knew, like I really knew that I was called, like I knew he was calling me, I was trying to substitute and misplace myself in other things to do other things,
uh,
although I knew the purpose was this. So my
mhm.
thing was, well, if I just go help over here and do ministry and help
Right.
my husband, and I help the women, and I just do, a little bit over here, I'm still trying to make myself purposefully do something, but it's misplaced. Because God
Okay.
said, no, I called you to minister. I called you to speak and teach and preach my word. But
Yes.
you want to go over here and teach the kids Bible study. Okay, that's good. That's fine and dandy. That's fine, because I'm going to still make use of it, although you want to be in a misplaced place.
Yeah.
Once you go ahead and surrender to the real place, I'm going to show you just how effective you
Uh,
are, because
uh-huh.
you're not fully functionally effectively until you are purposefully in the right
Right
place.
place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Man,
And my Lord
listen.
said we need people in our lives that can push us through those messy times.
Yeah.
Because God gives us people in our lives to be pushers. He gives us people in our lives that help push that
Mm-hmm.
place, that help,
Mm-hmm.
us to realize certain things about ourselves. We're not here. God speaks, and God can speak through people to
Yes.
tell us what it. Listen, if God can speak through a burning bush, if God can speak through a donkey, what makes you, and he spoke purpose through this stuff.
Yeah.
He spoke
Yeah.
it, he spoke that stuff to Moses. He spoke to the prophet. He spoke all these things that he had you to do. If he can speak all of this through non-living objects
Yeah.
and
Right.
living and other innate objects, what makes you think he can't do it through humans? And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
all throughout the Bible, we have prophets who came
Mm-hmm.
to declare things to people. So why can't God use people to speak things to give you a push, to encourage
Mm-hmm.
you, to tell you
Mm-hmm.
you got this, that you can do this, that I have
Mm-hmm.
purpose for you. Now walk in that thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Listen. Now, listen. This. I mean, I took my notes right, but I do encourage you, everyone, please, like, go back, because I always, like, the next day at work, I am working, but I always try to go back and listen to Talk Tuesdays again, just to, because it's something I might have missed. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? But
mhm,
it's good to hear it, to just keep it repetition in your mind, so
mhm,
you'll know. Like tonight, you'll know. Okay, God has given everybody a purpose,
mhm,
and every
mhm,
part has its purpose. That's one thing. It just stuck in
mhm,
my head tonight.
mhm.
The leg has a purpose. The arm, the
Yeah,
leg, your eyes,
yeah.
the ear. Each part has a
Each
purpose.
part. Yeah.
Uh,
Each
and
part.
that's like really really deep, really really
Mhm,
deep. It's been a
mhm.
deep conversation tonight, y'all. But I think also tonight too, Juana, it has been an eye opener.
Yeah,
Right, because I think
yeah.
a lot of us, and I'm us, me, all of
Mhm.
us, we have struggled with that identity
Absolutely.
crisis, and
Absolutely.
you know how people talk about that imposter syndrome. That
Mhm,
ties into
mhm,
identity crisis.
mhm, mhm. Yeah.
I think this was really really powerful tonight.
Mhm,
Again, I would just suggest that everybody would just go back and listen to this again,
mhm.
really really listen to it again. I know for me, I will. We did say it was a 30-minute powwow tonight, but we didn't gone
We
to
knew
an
that
hour.
wasn't gonna happen. We
we
knew
didn't
that
go
wasn't
we
gonna
didn't gone
happen.
to our hour, but it was meant to happen like that tonight.
Mhm.
Who's on here tonight, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for your questions. Thank you so much, Mama. Yes, I've been blessed. Thank you, Reverend Marshall. Shawana, tell us about Community Outreach Ministry. Where can we find, what's the address, what y'all got going on down there?
Community Outreach Ministry has some awesome things coming up. We are celebrating our 10-year pastoral and church anniversary. Yay! Give it up for the calm. 10 years, a decade of faith and service. We are having a sneaker ball on July the 11th at 7 p.m. at the American Legion, 1610 Old Sulphur Spring Road in Hawthorne, Maryland, 21227. Tickets are $55. You can get your tickets via Zelle at Community Outreach Men, MIN, the number 15 at gmail.com. Again, that's Community Outreach Men, MIN, the number 15 at gmail.com. Or you can go to the Givelify app. If you have the Givelify app, you can go to the Givelify app and there's a link that says Sneaker Ball. You can purchase your tickets. If you can't do any of those, reach out to Geraldine on her platform and she will connect you to the right people to get tickets for our sneaker ball. If you are available, join us. Come on and celebrate with us. And on Sunday, that Sunday, we will celebrate our 10-year anniversary service. And we're at Community Outreach Ministry, 2616 Ridgely Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21230. And our service starts at 11 a.m. We have the awesome senior pastor, Schwanna Marshall, and myself, executive pastor, First Lady, Schwanna Marshall. And so our Sunday services are at 11 o'clock. We are also on Facebook and YouTube under Community Outreach Ministry. If you don't have a church home or you just want to come and visit, come on through and visit us. If you want to support the Sneaker Ball, reach out to Geraldine Taylor if you cannot get a ticket on one of those platforms. Tickets are selling. And so if you want to join us on that night for our Sneaker Ball, I welcome you. I welcome you. I welcome you.
Awesome. Come on, y'all. Where your fans at? Come on out to the
Come
sneaker
on.
ball. We're going to have a good time. And Pastor Marshall, he is crazy. He's one of my closest friends. We grew up together. So come on out and support Community Outreach. 10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Wow. Awesome. That's
Good.
awesome.
God is good.
So
God.
tonight again, you stay on, Shawana. Stay here. We have one more Talk Tuesday, which is going to be on July the 8th, we're bringing on a new author,
Come
Andrea
on.
Taylor.
Yeah.
So she's coming on Talk Tuesday. She's an author. We're going to talk about her book. Listen, y'all, you know how you grow up with people and you be like, oh, such and such, da da da. But when they tell their story,
Come on. That's
ah man, oh my gosh. So she's going to be on
it.
July the 8th. That will be our last show for the season. So we normally take a break for the summer. We'll come back in September. We start a new season. We already got guests lined up. And so Reverend Marshall might be back for the new season. So
Uh-oh.
I'm so crazy. I'll be telling my friends, and they be like, Geraldine, we can tell you no. I'll be like, no, this is the date. Are you available?
Right. But
So,
she didn't even ask. I need you on Talk Tuesday on so and
yes.
so.
So again tonight, Reverend Marshall, we thank you so much for coming on. Listen, y'all, if y'all haven't heard her preach, listen, powerhouse, that's what I'm going to say. Powerhouse, but she brings the word. So again, bestie, that's my bestie, y'all, ride or die, I'm telling you.
Amen.
So
Amen.
thank you for coming on tonight. So what I normally do is just get our guests to say their lasting words and give us some more inspiration, motivation. Listen, we can go on a little bit longer, but respectful of your time. We both got to work in the morning. So I thank you all for joining tonight. It has been a blessing. And I always say I do appreciate your support. And I most importantly, thank God. I thank God, Shawana, for giving me the vision
Yes.
for Talk Tuesday. And we're
Yeah.
actually going on, actually, I thought it was 5 years. We're going this new season, we're going on 6 years actually
Awesome.
for Talk
Awesome.
Tuesday. So, I thank God for giving me the vision. And, if you want to be a part of Talk Tuesday, please, send me a DM. Let's talk about it. You can share your story, your testimony. If you're an entrepreneur, starting a new business, whatever it may be, you can come on Talk Tuesday and let's talk about it. And so again, guys, I thank you for joining tonight. Shawana, we're gonna have you to close us out.
Thank you, Geraldine, again for having me on. For having me on, telling me I'm coming on. Thank you all for joining tonight. Thank you all for your comments and your dialogue tonight. I pray that you were encouraged and empowered. Like I said in the beginning, something is said that creates action in our lives. And now you have the responsibility to walk in your purpose, with purpose, and on purpose.
Mm,
Function effectively in your assignment. Things will not only shift for you, but also for those connected to you.
mm,
Because your purpose is not just for you, but somebody needs what God has
mm,
called you to. So don't forego the
mm,
assignment. Each and every one of us has a God purpose for our life, and
mm,
we are accountable to function effectively in it. If you covet something else, you unfortunately leave a deficit in yours. Who and what you are supposed to be becomes void of its significance when your lack of action has devalued your purpose.
wow.
Seek God for your purpose.
Mm,
Be purposeful about it and walk in it.
wow. Thank you so much. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you again, everyone else. Shawana, don't go nowhere. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on July the 8th at 7:30. Author Andrea Taylor coming on to share with us. We'll take a break for the season, come back in September. So I'll see you in 2 weeks. All right, everybody. Good
Good
night.
night.